I note the presence of His Excellency Philemon Young, President of the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly in the Great Hall of Justice today, in addition to the representatives of the many states and international organizations that have taken part in these proceedings. The questions on which the advisory opinion of the Court has been requested are set forth in Resolution 77/276, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly on 29 March 2023. By a letter dated 12 April 2023, the Secretary General of the United Nations officially communicated to the Court the decision taken by the General Assembly to request the Court to render an advisory opinion. The final paragraph of the resolution reads as follows, I quote, "The General Assembly decides, in accordance with Article 96 of the Charter of the United Nations, to request the International Court of Justice, pursuant to Article 65 of the Statute of the Court, to render an advisory opinion on the following question. Having particular regard to the Charter of the United Nations, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Paris Agreement, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the duty of due diligence, the rights recognized in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the principle of prevention of significant harm to the environment, and the duty to protect and preserve the marine environment. A. What are the obligations of states under international law to ensure the protection of the climate system and other parts of the environment from anthropogenic emissions of greenhouse gases for states and for present and future generations? B. What are the legal consequences under these obligations for states where they, by their acts and omissions, have caused significant harm to the climate system and other parts of the environment with respect to 1. States, including in particular small island developing states, which due to their geographical circumstances and the level of development are injured or specifically affected by or particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change. 2. Peoples and individuals of the present and future generations affected by the adverse effects of climate change." End of quote. In accordance with the usual practice, I shall not read out the introductory paragraphs of the opinion. These paragraphs set out the main elements of the procedural history of the proceedings. I shall also omit or summarize some of the other paragraphs of the opinion. I shall therefore begin the reading of the advisory opinion at paragraph 37. The full text of the opinion will of course be available at the close of the sitting. When seized of a request for an advisory opinion, the Court must first consider whether it has jurisdiction to give the opinion requested, and if so, whether there is any reason why the Court should, in the exercise of its discretion, decline to answer the request. The first question put to the Court concerns the obligation of states under international law to ensure the protection of the climate system and other parts of the environment from anthropogenic emissions of greenhouse gases, which I shall refer to as GHGs. for states and for present and future generations. The second question concerns the legal consequences under these obligations for states where they, by their acts and omissions, have caused significant harm to the climate system and other parts of the environment, with respect to states and peoples and individuals of the present and future generations affected by the adverse effects of the climate change. The Court considers that these questions are legal questions. The Court concludes that it has jurisdiction to render the requested opinion. It then concludes that there is no compelling reason for it to decline to give the opinion requested by the General Assembly. Turning to the relevant scientific background, the Court notes that the consequences of climate change are severe and far-reaching. They affect both natural ecosystems and human populations. These consequences underscore the urgent and existential threat posed by climate change. In its examination of the scientific aspect, the Court relies primarily on the reports of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which I shall refer to as the IPCC. Participants agree that these reports constitute the best available science on the causes, nature, and consequences of climate change. The Court further observes that the adverse effects of climate change on the climate system have been acknowledged by the United Nations, including UNEP, and its specialized agencies such as the WMO, WHO, and the IMO. The IPCC defined the climate system as the global system consisting of 5 major components: the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the cryosphere, the lithosphere, and the biosphere, and the interactions between them. For the purposes of this advisory opinion, the Court notes that this definition is substantially equivalent to that of Article 1, Paragraph 3 of the United Nations.
Thank you for watching us on CNBC-TV18. For all news and updates, subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch us on all social media platforms.